And just like that, incredibly, our time here in Baku, Azerbaijan for COP29 is just about done. We have seen a lot of fascinating things. We've talked to a lot of interesting people, and I feel like I'm starting to know my way around the venue. I'm starting to recognize the landmarks. I'm learning some key words in Azerbaijani. And yes, we managed to get our merch. I mean, to some extent, one conference is much like another. I also managed to persuade the nice people in the Burkina Faso delegation to give me one of their scarves, which I think are about the best things any delegation here has, even though I had nothing to exchange for it except some fractured French. My last day here was a Saturday, by the way, and I was curious to see whether there would still be a lot of people here. And in fact, it was pretty busy, although there were some areas that were hives of inactivity. But as I say, it's getting to the point where it actually no longer matters to me that Girish means entrance, and very soon it won't even matter to me that Gish means exit either. In the time we've been here, learning to recognize all these landmarks and so on, we've also found a lot of things that are very revealing about the conference. And as I say, some of them are actually encouraging in a minor way, others are discouraging in a major way, including that so much of this goodwill and idealism is for naught because the whole process is fatally flawed. And to give you just one small piece of the flavor of what's coming from the top here, and which is unhelpful when it's not just pure noise, I want to read you a statement. This is from Simon Steele, who is, in fact, and let me just be fair to the man here and check, the Executive Secretary of UN Climate Change. And it has to be heard to be believed. Here we go. So as I say, I'm going to read it. This is a message issued at COP29, Baku, Azerbaijan on Saturday, the 16th of November, approximately 10 a.m. Quote, as G20 leaders head to Rio de Janeiro, the world is watching and expecting strong signals that climate action is core business for the world's biggest economies. The G20 was created to tackle problems that no one country or group of countries can tackle alone. On that basis, the global climate crisis should be order of business number one in Rio next week. Climate impacts are already ripping shreds out of every G20 economy, wrecking lives, pummeling supply chains and food prices, and fanning inflation. Bolder climate action is basic self-preservation for every G20 economy. Without rapid cuts in emissions, no G20 economy will be spared from climate-driven economic carnage. But there is also a good news story, which starts with the number 2 trillion. That's how many US dollars will flow to clean energy and infrastructure this year alone, double what's gone to fossil fuels. Some G20 countries are already taking a big slice of this fast-growing clean energy boom. Boosting global climate finance is about ensuring all countries can share in the vast benefits of bolder climate action, stronger growth, more jobs, less pollution, and more secure and affordable energy, and ensuring all countries can build resilience into their parts of global supply chains. Stepping it up on climate finance globally requires action both inside our COP process and outside of it. Here in Baku, negotiators are working around the clock on a new climate finance goal. There is a long way to go, but everyone is very aware of the stakes at the halfway point in the COP. Climate finance progress outside of our process is equally crucial, and the G20's role is mission critical. Next week's summit must send crystal clear global signals that more grant and concessional finance will be available, that further reform of multilateral development banks is a top priority, and G20 governments, as their shareholders and taskmasters, will keep pushing for more reforms. That debt relief is a crucial part of the solution so that vulnerable countries are not hamstrung by debt servicing costs that make bolder climate actions all but impossible. The G20 Forum should make progress on this. Finally, in turbulent times and a fracturing world, G20 leaders must signal loud and clear that international cooperation is still the best and only chance humanity has to survive global heating. There is no other way. And that's that. But if you parse that carefully, there's a couple of things that stand out, and I don't mean that in a good way. For instance, the obsession with sending signals. If you're really worried about a problem, there's a time where you send signals, but then you're done sending signals and you take action. And when you're at the 29th COP conference, you're past the signaling phase. You either take action or you admit that you don't know what to do and wouldn't know how to do it if you did know what it was. And another thing, he's calling on the G20 to do it. But this is COP. Everybody's here to do it. What on earth is that about? And the G20 are going to Rio. Well, guess what else is going to Rio? COP next year. So, does anybody here honestly believe that they know how to do anything other than send signals about the importance of signaling the sending of signals on the subject of signaling the sending of signals? Because if not, what the heck is this all about? From Baku, Azerbaijan, this is John Robson for the Climate Discussion Nexus, sending a signal about what's really going on here. I don't know what's going to happen in the next 6 days. It's possible that third world delegates will stage a massive walkout because of the failure to reach a major deal on financing, which was essentially the whole point of this conference, because as I mentioned a couple of conferences ago, they actually gave up on the concept of limiting greenhouse gas emissions, which again makes you wonder what they're all doing here. Somebody was lamenting that there were only 50,000 people here. I'm wondering what on earth the point is of having them here, because again, the negotiations, which are the key thing, are a flop. And as we've also observed, they're taking place behind closed doors, so a lot of the people who are here are really part of a sideshow. Though also, as I also said, part of that trade show where the activists get to know one another, exchange ideas, and also, to some extent at least, give out coffee. Unfortunately, sometimes you get there too late. And again, the fact that I now know where the free coffee is meant to be indicates that I've been here a while, possibly too long. But not nearly as much as the whole COP mechanism has been around too long, because they were supposed to save the planet and they didn't save the planet. And I want to add here some of the better stuff that you hear here, some of the practical ideas that people are discussing and trading notes on might well be of some value in helping deal with various ecological problems if it weren't overlaid with this ridiculous insistence that the planet is on fire and we've got to put it out now, or we're all going to die. But you can't stop that stuff. And so the conference continues in so many ways to be a masterpiece of futility. And in many of those ways, I wouldn't understand it nearly as well as I had if I hadn't been here. So ironically, my presence has been very useful, despite the fact that so many other people's has been a waste of time, money, and goodwill. On that note, I especially, before I leave, want to thank all the people who made this possible. We asked you to contribute so that we could make the trip, and you did, and it was well worthwhile. It was entertaining, it was informative, and coming out of it, we do understand this process considerably better than we did, although we don't think any more of it than we did. So, from Baku in Azerbaijan, this is John Robson for the Climate Discussion Nexus, signing off on COP29.